Scott Simpson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It's a pleasure to rise in support of this Weathertight Homes Resolution Services Amendment Bill in its first reading, introduced by the Minister, the Honourable Nick Smith. Sir, I rise in my capacity as Chairman of the Local Government and Environment Select Committee, and it will be my committee that will steer this bill through the Select Committee process, and I want to assure the House at the outset that we will be giving this bill very due diligence, very careful consideration and very thorough analysis, as we do with all pieces of legislation. So in a previous life I had a sad involvement with a multi-site apartment block. I was employed briefly to help as a facilitator to try and organise the nearly 120 owners who were involved in this multi-unit site, who had the misfortune to have bought, lived or invested in a very leaky apartment block in Auckland City. And sir, at that time I became very, very conscious and aware of the multifaceted, incredibly complicated, mind-numbingly expensive process and deeply heartbreaking emotional journey that those owners were going to confront. So this was a process of trying simply to get the multiple owners to agree on a pathway forward about how to address the issues that confronted them collectively, as luck or fate would have had it, merely having them thrown together in an unfortunate circumstance. And just to put some kind of measure and context around this particular case, sir, this multi-apartment site, the initial estimates for repairs for the leaky building were in the order of $20 million. And sir, at the time there was no remedy, there was no pathway, there was no way forward for that group to act cohesively or in a coordinated way, other than to work through a group of keen amateurs who made up the body corporate. And there they were, thrust into a legal minefield of epic proportion. Most of them were, as I say, just keen amateurs thrown together literally by a turn of fate that they had all invested or bought property in the same complex. And they were confronted with legal bills that were eye-watering and numbing in their size. They had a range of different capacities and circumstances, each and every one of them. Many of them were investors, property investors, and they had some capacity to fund their portion of litigation. But I was struck immediately by the straitened circumstances of many of those unit owners who, for them, their unit in this leaky building was the manifestation of their lifetime savings. They had mortgages and they were all very keen to try and get it sorted. And so this bill, sir, is a bill that carries forward on the good work that was done at a time to try and resolve some of those issues. And this bill, sir, extends the system that was put in place. I thought the very good work that was done by the Honourable Maurice Williamson during his time as Minister, who actually developed a concept that this bill seeks to extend. Now this bill would have helped those people I was talking about in a way that was simply not available to them at the time. Now it is, and it's very, very good. So the government's taken significant leadership on this matter, and I'm pleased to see that this bill will actually take into account some of the certainty issues that have arisen as a result of subsequent litigation, most notably that case Osborne and the Auckland City Council in June of last year, when some questions were raised about timing, and those issues are now going to be legislatively made certain by this piece of legislation. So this is a bill that will, for the sorts of people that I'm talking about in my introductory comments, would have meant that they had to go to very expensive, time-consuming and cumbersome litigation. This means that for the probably 70 properties concerned that will be captured by this bill, that process will not have to take place for those people. And I think this House can be quite reassured by the fact that this bill will bring a degree of peace of mind to those people who have already suffered emotionally and physically, not least of all financially, through a situation that is often something that they had no involvement at all other than the misfortune of investing or buying into a leaky property. So this bill addresses three matters. The legislative location of eligibility criteria is made certain. The definition of built date, which is the issue around the legal action in Osborne and the Auckland City Council, that matter is defined and addressed in this piece of legislation. And then the third aspect that is addressed, sir, is the application timing that has to be received within 10 years of the property being built. Now, 10 years, sir, may sound like quite a long period of time, but I can assure the House that for those people who are caught up in these matters, 10 years goes very quickly, but it's 10 years of agony and uncertainty, and it causes great stress and heartache for every single one of those people involved. So, sir, I'm delighted that the Minister has introduced this bill. I think it's a pragmatic, it's a sensible, it's a common sense outcome of what has been a bit of a tail end to the original legislation, the original solution that the Honourable Maurice Williamson so wisely brought together some years ago. So what we've got is a situation from this bill that means that, frankly, those lawyers who have made vast fortunes from the misfortune of people who have been previously forced to litigate to solve their leaky home or unit problems, they will be spared that activity. And that, I think, sir, goes a long way to providing some degree of optimism and hope for the people who have bought into these properties. The numbers are quite staggering, sir, and if we look back to a time before the solution was put in place, there were literally tens of thousands of properties involved, and they were involved in leaky home situations all over the country. Electorates like mine in Coromandel weren't spared. We've got a number of multi-level dwellings in the electorate where they are encased in plastic and where work is being done to ensure that their leaky home status is being remedied and put right as we speak. So back in the early days, we found that there was this tsunami of issues that were confronting us as a nation, and we had to do something about it. So by the time we'd got to the 31st of January this year, there had been 1,147 claims, and those 1,147 claims, Mr. Speaker, represented some 3,500 homes which had been assessed as qualifying for the government contribution under the formula that was set in place. And so the future cost of that benefit is going to be relatively minor in comparison to the bulk of work that has already occurred. And I think, sir, that, as I said, this House can take some confidence from the fact that this pragmatic piece of refining legislation will come as a great relief to those people who find themselves caught up in these situations. The points in this bill that are important to the ongoing validity of the financial assistance package are that it ensures that as many homeowners as possible will be able to access the resolution formula that was put in place. And it seems to me, sir, quite arbitrary to have cut those people off simply because of a finite time being put in the original solution that has now come close to finishing. And so this piece of legislation will extend that timing to allow confidence and optimism for a solution to be accessed and obtained by these remaining unsettled cases. So this is a very good pragmatic piece of legislation. I know the committee will give it very careful and diligent scrutiny. I'm looking forward to watching it as it progresses through Select Committee and through the House, and I commend it to the House with full support. Yeah.